Hello, 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 and welcome to episode 4 of Point of Purchase. We're so happy you could drop by today. My name is Trisha Williams. I'm the managing partner and client success leader here at Geek Commerce, and I'm going to be your host for today. We're going to keep the conversation pretty casual, so we'd love it if you could say hello. Just drop us a line in the comments field. Say hello, let us know where you're checking us out from, what city, what town. We'd love to hear from you. So if this is your first time watching Point of Purchase, I'd like to give you a bit of a background in terms of what we do on this show. So Point of Purchase is a live web series, and in each episode, we'll dive into topics surrounding the retail and e-commerce ecosystem. We dig into everything from industry news, technology, best practices, business strategies, and so much more. We'll tap into our own experiences and as an e-commerce services provider, and we'll bring in industry experts and some of our partners from within the industry. You can catch us live every month. Just keep an eye out for our promos or check out recordings from past shows on our blog page at geekspeakcommerce.com. So let's get into it. Today's topic is the path to recovery, the role of government in the digital shift. We thought this would be a really timely topic, given everything that's going on in the world today, obviously. Certainly bricks and mortar businesses are opening back up, but I think it's fair to say that it's definitely not business as usual. And so owners and operators are looking for ways to bring their business online, or perhaps in some cases go through a full digital transformation. So where can SMEs, small, medium-sized, enterprise-level businesses, get the answers to the questions that they may have? The good news is I've got two guests today who have loads of information to share with you today. So first off, I'd like to introduce you to Simon Gill, who is the Director of Economic Development. Hi, Simon.
Hey there.
Hey. So Simon is the Director of Economic Development and Tourism at the Regional Municipality of Durham. Simon and his team at Invest Durham work to deliver on Durham Region's economic development strategy, attracting investment and creating local jobs. It's quite a mouthful.
Great to be here.
Thanks for joining us. And next up, I've got Leigh Smout, and Leigh is the president of the Toronto Region World Trade Center. He's built a team that is focused on providing comprehensive international trade services, key global contacts, and support for trade development and international growth for businesses throughout the Toronto region, Ontario, and Canada. Hi, Leigh. How are you?
Hi, Tricia. Just great, thanks. And thanks so much for having us here today.
You bet. It's great to have you both join us. All right, so obviously I just read your canned bios, but I'd love for our viewers to get to know you a little bit more. So if you don't mind indulging me, can you give us a bit of your backstory and what led you to your current roles? So Simon, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, sure. Happy to. Hey, everyone. Simon Gill, Director of ECDev at Region of Durham. And I guess the backstory is, quite a while ago now, I graduated from the Queen's School of Business and pretty quickly got right into large-scale electricity project development, international markets. So working in various senior-level positions in Sun Edison, Ontario Power Generation, even developing solar projects, business development, acquisitions. And I guess it was through that passion for business development, sustainability, strategic partnership development that led me eventually down the path to becoming the director here and leading our economic development efforts at the regional level. And on the personal side, live here in Durham on a farm, small farm, and we have an orchard and some perennial plants. So local food production and local agritourism are both really, I'm very passionate about. Would love to see those things grow in the region, and we've got some programs on the go to support those.
That's amazing. I think a lot of us are really jealous of you right now, Simon, being able to live on a farm. That's awesome. Okay. Over to you, Leigh.
Thanks. I'm one of those jealous people. Sure, be nice. I'd love some laying hens, a fresh egg in the morning, that kind of thing. I started in sciences at University of Toronto, actually, and but as I was, that was sort of leading towards maybe being a doctor or something. But as I was working in the summers in a tree planting business, I actually started a tree planting company in Ontario following my university days, and I really got into being a business person. I really enjoyed business. I learned a lot about things that were not from science, like accounting and so on. And So I've had a number of different businesses I've started, run, joined, supported, helped grow, that kind of thing. And I've also had a couple of spells at government. So I've worked for the province a couple of times, once for M&R for a period, and then another time in the IT side of the business more recently. And so I've had some of that kind of big corporate experience and quite a bit of personal entrepreneurial. And I think that the role I have as president at World Trade Center Toronto really benefits from both, because it really helps to understand how to work with governments, of course, because
For sure.
businesses and society and culture, and when you look at programs internationally, you really need to work with your governments. But it also really helps to understand our clients, which are generally small and medium-sized businesses. It helps to have been an entrepreneur and to really know what a business person goes through when they're trying to import supplies, export products, just manage day-to-day HR and so on, those kinds of things. So, so it's been a kind of a circuitous path to where I am, but pretty happy to be here.
Absolutely. Definitely a winding road, but interesting one. Both of you. And I realize both of you have a bit of an agricultural background.
True.
Yeah.
Awesome. So my first big question is a bit of a philosophical one. And that is, what role do you think government organizations should play when it comes to businesses? So Simon, why don't you go first again?
Sure. Yeah. Happy to. So at the regional level and the area municipal level, we don't have as many tools in the toolbox as a provincial government or a federal government. So we can't really give, grants to businesses to spur on sectors of the economy or in response to a pandemic, for example. But there's a lot of things that we can do, and I think a lot of value that we can bring. And mostly, I think that centers at the regional level, at least, around getting the fundamentals right for business.
Right.
So we provide things like support to our post-secondary institutions. Here in Durham, we've got a bunch of them. So we work with them to ensure that there's a great supply a constant supply of good, talented workforce pipeline, graduating from those post-secondaries for our economy. We do things like make sure that the region is investment ready and competitive to attracting new investment. So for example, meaning the things that growing businesses are looking for. We have effect over that. So maybe a business needs property and needs property with water service and electricity and so on. We can bring things like water services to areas of the region that we want to see grow and make sure that we're competitive. And then another thing I think regional governments and area municipal governments can do for small and medium businesses is act kind of like a one-stop shop for businesses that are looking for support from any level, whether it's the latest programming that just got announced, if it's just a 1-800 number they need someone to call. We've got that. At investdurham.ca, specifically in Durham, we offer that one-stop shop, and we keep hearing time and again, it's really valuable service. So.
Absolutely. Invest Durham is definitely, the source of a lot of great resources for the business community, for sure. Same question to you, Leigh.
Yeah, I have to say, I really like Simon's answer. I think that the ability of the municipal governments to support local businesses is there isn't anybody else that can do that, and that really kind of fits my philosophy of government, which is government should do what business can't. And we're I think, and I'm heavily involved in trade because I run the World Trade Center, and so there are things like having a free trade agreement in place. Business can't go and make that happen. We need government-to-government work. We need it at all levels of government, and so I always appreciate those kinds of supports. And when you get into situations like we're in now in COVID times, it has been, what would you do without governments there to support especially some of the specific industries or sectors that have really paid the price for having to be locked down and so on. And so, we can use them to help us find PPEs and support regional local supply chains and things like that. But I think even more importantly, sometimes we need some of those supports for industries like tourism and that have been just hit so hard with, maybe I heard a stat that within a month of the shutdown, 80% of people with jobs in tourism were out of work and 90% of revenues were lost. And so I think that that's where I think that government has an opportunity to play a role And we were able to get some very specific programs in place because all the levels of government have really stepped up during COVID.
Absolutely. And, as a small business owner, I have to say, I don't think about the role of government very often. We just sort of expect the infrastructure and the resources and the services to be there. We don't really think about what goes into, providing them. So thank you for that. And, something has happened over the last few months where we found, not only families, but also businesses really leaning in and listening to all the messages that are being shared by the provincial government, the federal government, to try to learn about the different programs that are being offered. So fantastic work. So my next question is, how do you think your priorities have changed, given what we just touched on, the COVID-19 pandemic, for each of your organizations? So Leigh, why don't we go to you first?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, but I think actually in many ways our priorities have not changed. I think our priorities as the Toronto Region Board of Trade is to support our business members, to make sure that we are creating the best possible environment for a business to succeed, whether those are large businesses or whether they're small mom and pop shops, local businesses, and all the way in between. And so, however, now of course the challenge with COVID is we can't do all the things we used to do. We can't hold events to bring people together in the same way. I mean, we're doing some of these kinds of events like you're doing today, which is, I think, fantastic. It's so helpful to have them to keep people connected. And so we're really grateful to you for doing this. But we have in the past held 200 events in year where people come in, join us for a lunch or a breakfast or something. Great speakers, thought leaders are there, and the opportunity to connect and network. So as COVID hit, we still needed to achieve those same things, make those connections, but how were we going to do it? So one of the things that the Board of Trade did is we entered into a program, or started a program called Reimagining Recovery Framework. And it had 6 work tracks in it. And I won't go through all the details because it would just take too long, but each work track took a different approach. I'll give you just an example of one, because I co-chaired it with somebody from Toronto Global, with Daniel Hengeveld. And that program was focused on how recovery could look different or will look different by different industries or sectors. And we couldn't go to look at every single sector in detail, so we narrowed it down to 11 overall sectors, and then we had tables to take a look at it, and brought in experts. It included business experts, but it included labor, it included some social interest groups, it included the city was a huge partner in it with us, and we had them not just look at like what's happening today that you need, what kind of regulation change do you need, but what is your future of your industry going to look like? How can it, and the term that's come up many times has been this idea of build it back better. How can we end up with a better, more equitable, more socially securely oriented business out of it? And so we've done that, and we've got reports coming out this week and a summit next week, and there are other work tracks too. But the other thing I'll just quickly mention is at the World Trade Center Toronto, we've pivoted our programming to digital. And so we run a trade accelerator program across Canada, working with partners all across Canada. And we've run our first digital programs, and now they're just expanding like crazy across all of the provinces now under this new method. And then we also started a program that I'll talk about later, but it's called the Recovery Activation Program. And it's about helping businesses digitize their own business, because that's one thing I think we are all recognizing, no matter what kind of business we are, not for profit like ourselves, a business or a government, we all need to be able to manage our business more precisely using digital systems.
Absolutely. And we'll get into the RAP program a little bit more specifically later on, but I love what you said, build it back better. Love it, because I think, this period is definitely pushing a lot of us to take a look at how we do things overall, and stripping everything away and really looking at how we can improve things for the future, and not just right now.
Right.
So I think that's fantastic. Simon, same question to you. Have priorities shifted at all for Investor?
Yeah, well, in fact, our priorities have totally shifted. But pre-pandemic, we were very focused on promoting all of the great things that the region had to offer outside the region, promoting it domestically, internationally. And we had also been working to support businesses that wanted to come and locate in Durham, expand their business and establish a presence here and sell to the Canadian market and tap into all the great things that the region has to offer a new business. But of course, with the pandemic, all of that immediately shifted on March 12th when we joined up with our partners, all the economic development staff at the area municipalities, our towns and cities, as well as the chambers of commerce, boards of trade, our business improvement areas, our small business advisory center. We all got together and joined forces to support the businesses that we do have in Durham region. And this was a 100% effort focus for us, and continues to be so. Pretty much all of our outbound investment attraction type efforts or external promotion efforts are on the back burner for later, and we're making sure that our local businesses have what they need now to remain operational and hopefully grow and recover and build back better, as Leigh said. So that's our focus now.
Good stuff. And I have to say thank you, because we've reviewed all of that information that's been shared through the local chambers of commerce here in Whitby. A lot of that information was funneled through their communication tools. So that was great to have all that information in one spot for sure.
Great.
So next up, maybe I can ask you both to tell us a little bit more detail about specific initiatives that you've developed to support small businesses through recovery during this pandemic. So Simon, you can go first this time.
Sure. Yeah. Happy to. So, the first thing we did was we basically funneled all of the world of information that was like a fire hose at the time into a dedicated single portal for Durham businesses. So investdurham.ca, we put it all there. We were updating it every hour, in March. And so all of the resources that were available to any business or nonprofit was right at their fingertips in one spot. We developed local directories for local food. In fact, actually, our local food page, where it has been the most popular page on our website for months now. Wow. Because our local food, local agri-producers had pivoted to do really creative things like create a virtual farmers market and bring the products that were being produced in Durham to customers in our urban areas. So we put up a local food listing. We had the local PPE suppliers. All of our, hundreds of Durham region businesses completely retooled and pivoted to manufacture PPE, like hand sanitizer and masks and so on. So we had a directory for that. We also created a directory for local e-commerce and digital support services, because, of course, as we move into this, forced digital transformation globally, our businesses needed those supports. So we put those directories together. We also launched the Downtowns of Durham website, downtownsofdurham.ca, strictly dedicated to supporting our local businesses. So it's an online tool for Durham residents or anyone else to identify how they can go about supporting local. And of course, we've been working on compiling a whole suite of webinar style information for our local businesses, mental health in the workplace, HR obligations, dealing with the forced digital transformation of your workforce. So we found that has been very much appreciated by our business community.
Absolutely. And if there's one thing that the pandemic has forced us to do, it is to be creative. I mean, who would have thought of a digital farmers market, right? So
exactly.
Here we are. So same question to you, Leigh.
Yeah, I still want some of those fresh laid eggs, not the digital ones, but we'll talk about it later, Simon. Simon hit a couple of things that we've been working on too, and of course, I guess we in some ways we have different audiences, but we did start also with a portal, an information portal, because this was one of the challenges: is the different levels of government, different supports, different business organizations with different supports, and so on. And we wanted to get it all in one place for the Toronto region, and so we did the same thing. The thing we added to it, because I think one of the challenges has been no matter how well a government designs a program or thinks it through, there's still a lot. I don't know if my experience is you go to websites and you try to figure out what it is you're supposed to do with it. It's quite challenging. And so we actually added a chat program to our website that we'd never had before. The Board of Trade is 175 years old, and I don't think we've had a website that long, but however long we have had it, it is not, we've never had anything like chat before, because we never felt the urgency of information exchange in the past. There'd be subjects that come up where you really need to get word out, but not in this same way where companies are literally just realizing from day to day that they have to do something to survive, perhaps, or to figure out if they're going to make it. And so the chat function has been really well received, and quite a number of my staff at World Trade Center were shifted to that, and I think did an amazing job, because what happens is when somebody asked a question, they would dig into it and they'd become somewhat experts in it, and then they could be whenever those questions came up in the future, it was much easier for them to answer than each of us going to a website trying to figure it out. So I think that was really helpful. And we've also run, again, similar to Simon, many webcasts and webinars. And the challenge, of course, with them, like with anything we're doing like this, the screen's flat, and it's not the same as being in the room and shaking people's hands. And so finding a way to keep that content really relevant and things that people are worried about today, not sort of the big picture stuff necessarily, but how do we get through things today? And a lot of that has fit in with some of our specific programming. So I mentioned that our Trade Accelerator program, we've shifted to a virtual platform, and that's really important because, Canada is a very large nation with a very small population, and we even have bigger restrictions between provinces quite often than we do trying to sell into other markets. And so we can't afford to just think we're going to sell locally only. And so I think making sure that you continue to plan your future from a trade perspective, develop your export plan, think about the markets you need to go to, that has been really important. And that's what they get from the TAP program. And then the other thing is we've gone digital with our market activation program, as we call it, which is once those people have plans to export, we take them to markets normally, but you can't do that now. So we're doing it digitally again. And so the first one was an e-commerce one to the Asian markets, working with Rakuten and Alibaba and others. I mean, I just mentioned a couple of big names. And fantastic, 20 companies in, kind of really looking for how they can kind of grow those relationships to a point where they can sign contracts, even if they can't go into the market, go to a trade show, go to a conference, and meet with people in person. And so that's kind of, we've pivoted that kind of programming as well. And then again, we also have developed a recovery program, which is very much about the digital management of your business.
Absolutely. So what you're saying, Leigh, is that you've been super busy with your team.
It was the strangest thing. We went, and this you mentioned. I think Simon mentioned the 12th. On the 12th, they got together. March. Well, on March 11th, I flew back from London, England, where I was with the mayor, with Tourism Toronto, as they were called at the time, and others. We had a team over there to promote Toronto Global, of course, and to set up some, get some programming happening, interactive and whatever. So when the day I got back, the mayor had got back the day before, and he had said, "Okay, I have to go into isolation," which meant we all had to. And then a day later, everybody was, right. So I thought, oh, this is going to be, at first, the first week, you're kind of going, well, this is weird. I didn't have to commute, and I'm sitting at home, and am I going to get any work done? It's turned out, I think we've been busier than ever in the 4 years that I've been at the board. Like, honestly, busier
Absolutely.
than ever.
We've been
amazing.
We've been busier than ever. Yeah. It's been totally crazy the last 6 months.
It's been a scramble for sure. Absolutely. But thank you for staying busy, because that means you're getting programs out there for us.
Yeah, better busy than the alternative.
Yeah, no doubt. So I'm going to try to narrow our focus a little bit more and talk specifically about some of the digital programs that you've developed or participated in through your different organizations. So first off, I'd like to touch on Digital Main Street. And I think that's a program that's it's fairly well known out there right now. But Simon, if you wouldn't mind taking us through that. What is it, and who's eligible to apply?
Sure. So the most important thing to know, I think, about Digital Main Street right now is that if you're a small downtown business with under 10 employees, there are grants available to help you transform your business to become more digital and to increase your online presence. Those grants are $2,500. And there's only a finite amount of those available in the province through the program that's been established by the city and the province of Ontario and federal government through FedDev. But it is a bit of a time-sensitive issue. If you want access to those free services to digitally transform your business, go and apply for that grant right away. So that's kind of the point number one of it. But there are a number of different arms of Digital Main Street. And in fact, in Durham here, we've even augmented it a little bit. So I'll tell you about that. The first piece is Shop Here. Shop Here is a program that was launched by the City of Toronto's Economic Development Department and supported by Google and Shopify. I mean, it's got some big support behind it. And it's effectively free Shopify stores, online of course, for any small business that is eligible and wants one. So that's the first really cool piece of the program. The second really cool piece is that Digital Main Street is being delivered by organizations across Ontario, setting up these digital service squads. And these digital service squads are these like a tactical team of digital experts to help our small businesses take the next step for digital transformation. You know, you may have a website and maybe even an online store already. Maybe you've got an Instagram profile, but there's so much more to do, you know, SEO and like beyond, you know, you can get really deep into this. And there's these teams that can offer services for free to eligible businesses. So that's the second piece. And that's being delivered in Durham by our Small Business Advisory Center, BACD.ca. And also the Whitby BIA and Clarington Board of Trade. Another one is this future-proofing program. And this is kind of a really cool program being launched by the Regional Innovation Centers. Spark in Durham is delivering it here. And that's to do really cool transformational projects to identify very specific ways that our economy can grow and transform and build back better in the new post-COVID economy. And then finally, we recognize that there were maybe some organizations like not-for-profits or larger companies outside of downtown cores in Durham region that may have a need for digital transformation services. So our economic development division stepped in and funded BACD to even augment the Digital Main Street program and provide it to more businesses and maybe even take that next step with digital transformation. So many different pieces. I would definitely say check out investdurham.ca. We've got them all the different menu of options are available there, and many of them are free. So check it out. Yes,
you hit on a few key words there: grant and free. So that's amazing. I know obviously a lot of businesses are cash strapped right now, and so if they can participate in these programs, that would be a huge help. And it's good to know that, I mean, even being in downtown Whitby here, I'm aware of a number of businesses that have actually received those grants. So it's not like this big program that you hope to get your application reviewed and maybe you'll get accepted. You know, it actually does happen. So that's great to hear. Thanks, Simon.
Great.
So Leigh, I know that your team has been working a lot on what's called Recovery Activation Program, or RAP. Can you share a little bit more information about that?
Yeah, I'd really love to. And just so you know, we're FedDev has also funded the Recovery Activation Program, so there's a whole lot of free here as well, which is great because that doesn't happen that often, and so people need to take advantage of it. But the great thing is it's part of the same program funding as Digital Main Street, and the province is part of the funding as well. And so we have a very close relationship where we're able to, so if companies come into one or the other, we can always refer them out to the other if we think they're better suited to it. So a little background on RAP. After many years of doing a lot of trade work, we've come to realize that quite a number of Canadian businesses have opportunities to sell internationally, and they couldn't because they just couldn't scale their business to do it. So they were coming back from trade missions with us and saying, yeah, we got offered a deal, but we're going to say no because we just can't make that much stuff or whatever it may be. And so we said, okay, well, that's if you have sales, you've got to figure out how to scale your business. We need maybe not a Canadian attitude in this case, where we're like, let's want to grow and take over the world, right? And so what we've done is we developed something called the Scale Up Institute Toronto, and that we were about to run our growth development program structurally based on how we run our Trade Accelerator program, but with very different content. And it was going in April, and of course March, COVID hit. So we really very quickly took a look at this and said, okay, how are the challenges for these businesses to scale their business, or perhaps just survive? How are those challenges changing? And it's about how to digitize your business. I mean, I think probably all of us, and certainly as a small business person myself, we've always known that there were many things we could do better and more efficiently and differently. We probably should take the time to document our processes. We probably should find ways to digitize some of them, or at least make them more efficient, even if it wasn't always digital thinking. And what we realized was that now with COVID, everybody has that right in front of them. It's not something that you can put on the back at the end of your desk and say, oh yeah, if I manage all these other things I have to do this week, then I'll think about it. It's something that, hey, my workforce is not here. They're somewhere else, and I've got to manage them. My supply chain just got disrupted. I'm expecting raw wood products to arrive for me to do my finishing, and they're not arriving, and there's no sense of when they're going to come. And I can't just go somewhere and buy some new, and maybe I've lost some sales channels. And guess what? That trade show that I was planning to go to in May, well, it got canceled and I couldn't go to the trade show. So how am I going to find new customers? So what we thought is we needed to address our scale-up programming towards digitizing your business. So looking at how you can be more efficient in all of those things. And it's really not about something airy-fairy technical. How do you find new software to do something better? It's about, what do I really need to do to make my business more manageable? And really interestingly, I think we've got a whole bunch of programs within the program, but the way you come in is through what we call our DNA. So get your DNA taken, and it's your digital needs assessment. And that is, we've worked with KPMG to develop the DNA. And at the end of when you've got, it's a survey, about a half an hour-ish kind of thing. And when you go through it, you get measured on a number of criteria on where you need to be in terms of your digital maturity. And so when I say where you need to be, it's benchmarked against international standards that KPMG has developed with international organizations. And so we're able to say, for instance, like just pick cybersecurity. If you're not very, let's say you measure on a scale of 5 at 2.5 on cybersecurity. Well, these days, if somebody's going to work with you, not only do they want you to be, you don't have to just manage your own data and make sure it's secure. You've got to manage your customers' data. You've got to assure them. And so those kinds of things are changing. So you might want to get to the benchmark standard of 3.7, and you're at 2.5. So how do we get you there? Well, we've got a digital certificate program in cybersecurity, for instance, that we would hope to move you along that continuum. And then remeasure after and see. Now, if you've got, like, right across your business, you're kind of coming in at 2.5 and you overall would like to be at somewhere about, in the 3s or what have you, then we've got the Digital Transformation Blueprint program. And that is a very intensive program. It's 5 days of programming, 5.5 days of programming over 3 weeks, some time in between to write your transformation blueprint, and then a bunch of mentorship with our experts. And so these programs are, there's ones you can take that you spend a half a day at, or there's ones you can take that you spend weeks at. But at the end of the day, they're all very practical, and they're workshop oriented, and they're designed to help a business figure out how to manage itself through this pandemic, but most importantly, how to thrive on the now and on the back end of it. Absolutely.
So I think what you're saying is the program is very comprehensive.
It is very much so.
Yeah, you touched on a few things there, and there are 3 things that I love about the WRAP program. And first off, the program is customized based on where you are in your digital transformation. So that's great, I think. And also you get access to industry experts that, quite frankly, you might not otherwise. So I think it's just amazing to be able to, reach out to industry experts whenever you need it. And then the other piece is free. It's free. Participation is absolutely free, and you can't beat that right now.
Yeah, and just touching on that, Tricia, if you'll forgive me, those experts you're talking about. See, we don't consider ourselves to be digital experts. We're experts at running programs and connecting people. But because we're at the Board of Trade, we have access to unbelievable experts. And if you think about, again, as a small business person, I know who I used for a lawyer and an accountant and so on. They were fantastic for what I could afford. I would never have thought of them as somebody who has incredible international trade experience, for instance, or incredible digital. But the thing about coming through this program is that's the kind of level of expertise you're getting. The very top line legal experts, technical experts, accounting experts, HR experts, or whatever, much more than you could normally afford to pay as a small business. But because you're coming through a program and they're part of it, you're not paying for any of that. So it's pretty amazing. It really
Absolutely. Just getting access to legal advice and tax advice is
at all.
a program on its own, for sure.
Sure.
All right. So you guys have a wealth of information, which is amazing. I'm just going to pause for a second to remind everybody that if you do have questions, please drop them in the comments field. And it looks like we are starting to see some trickle in, which is great to see. All right, so I'm going to continue on here. Going back to Digital Main Street, the program's been up and running for quite a bit now. I'm wondering, Simon, if you can share some success stories that you've seen.
Sure. Actually, we hear about these every once in a while, and when we launched the announcement, we had already, when we launched the announcement publicly, we had already had a few businesses that had jumped in and taken advantage. So we had heard that Anja of Sweden in Port Perry, Inspired by You, is another business in Whitby that took advantage. Taryn's Wellness Center in Orono, which is in Clarington in Durham region, have all taken advantage of the Digital Main Street program. And the owner of Inspired by You told us that working with that digital transformation service squad was a huge learning curve, but it was instrumental in getting their business to move into the digital world, and they highly recommend it. And another really great good news story that we heard recently is Me Not Alpacas, which is in northern Durham. It's a farm. Visitors can browse really cool selections of alpaca products on the farm. Digital Main Street helped them go online. They launched a free Shopify store through Shop Here. And as soon as they launched their shop here and started offering farm tours online, they started selling out of their tours of their alpaca farm pretty much within days after launching their website. So they've got some great things to say about it, and would love to hear from others who are considering a similar program.
Absolutely. I'm loving the shout outs to all the local businesses. I think I've driven past that alpaca farm, actually.
I've been. It's great.
Yeah, awesome. So, Leigh, I know that RAP is still fairly new, but what kind of feedback are you hearing?
Yeah, actually, we've actually just have our first cohort going through the really intensive blueprint program. So we're getting amazing results from that, from the point of view of companies telling us what they think. I mean, we have some quotes from, we actually had a company, a manufacturer out of Sudbury, who said incredibly engaging and exactly what we needed. We had a company that Anita Agrawal, who's worked with us before, come on missions with us and gone through our Trade Accelerator program. And what she was saying is that so much of what had been on her mind for the past 4 months was answered in just one session. Wow. And so I think that's kind of what we're looking for. We're looking for that feedback, and I think we have had something like 92%. It exceeded expectations. It's really phenomenal so far from that point of view. So good results from the specific companies going through so far. Although the thing about it, of course, is what I wanted to be able to do is say they've saved X number of jobs, they've increased their sales by, and so on and so on. And that's going to be some months from now. But I'm confident that'll happen. But one of the interesting things I think about it is, as we're at about maybe 240 companies that have done their DNA so far, the 61% of them represent at least one underrepresented group. So to give an example, 52% of the companies that have come through are owned or led by women. I think it's 18% are a visible minority, and youth another 18%. And of course, there's crossover. This isn't adding up to 100. Like it could be a youthful woman who's a visible minority. Like that, so they could all be in those. One person could be in those three. But yeah, so it's been an amazing. It's been amazingly interesting as across the province this has developed. And the other thing that's been really great is one of the things FedDev was keen on, which we were really pleased about, is they wanted us to leverage the chamber network across Ontario. to roll this program out. And so we've been able to do that, including, Simon's mentioned some of the chambers, literally everyone from Windsor to Kenora to Brockville, I guess. And so that has been a really nice thing. And for some of the really smaller chambers where there might be one person or even part-time or so, we've used the Ontario Chamber, the OCC, to manage those ones for us. So the great thing is we've got this amazingly great network that's being developed around Ontario. And I think what we'd like to do in the end is make a connection from all of these companies that are learning about what they need to digitize to all of the Ontario companies that could help provide services to make that possible for them. So beyond, of course, the amazing Shop Here program and so on. So that's another piece that I think is going to come out of these successes. And just one last thing I should have at the beginning said, one of the things that differentiates RAP from Shop Here is that it's not focused on digital on Main Street. It's not necessarily the local smaller retailers, restaurants, service providers, and so on. It's really a lot of it can be some of the bigger ones, whatever, big retailers and what have you, but it would also be the small manufacturers, those kinds of folks, so who are really in every corner of the province and really looking for some support.
Absolutely. And I think a byproduct of all of this has been, the communication and collaboration between all these different agencies seems to have definitely improved for sure. Okay, so Leigh, you touched on a number of different programs that you are heading up at the World Trade Center. I know that there's another one that's really big and really important right now, and it's focused on international trade. Can you share a little bit more about market activation?
Yeah, and we have two major trade programs. One is the Trade Accelerator program that I've mentioned a couple of times, and in that you build your export plan. But once you've got an export plan, you really need to get into market. And during the export planning process, we get companies to identify one or two primary markets where they think their product can be successful, with support, of course. What market activation does is it helps us get them into those markets, and normally that means we take companies. We'll run education programs locally. We'll have people from let's say it's the Netherlands. We'll have the local trade officer from the Netherlands here come in and do a talk about it and so on. But mostly it has been about getting into the market, taking them there, giving them educational programming about how their brand can thrive in those different markets. To give an example, we took a food and beverage mission to China, to Shanghai, and we had all sorts of different distributors and people who can help you with your brand in China talk about how different it is to have a brand in China. And just a little company example, we had Flow Water with us, and if anybody knows Flow, they have this beautiful packs, water packs, and all sorts of really nice flavors, all natural, alkaline water, which is so amazing. And personally, I love them and buy them. But interestingly, in China, the advice they were getting from some of the folks there was, people like to drink out of glass in China. So kind of interesting, and it doesn't mean you can't change that, but you have to think about now, what is my strategy now? So learning those things in market is really important. And so now the challenge, of course, for us is how do we do that without being in market? And so we've pivoted to digital, and I mentioned we ran a first mission with Rakuten and so on. So that was really, really interesting learning experience. But one of the things we've decided to do is we want to go back to market regularly. So we're going to we're working on what our priority market should be based on the industry you're in, so that we can advise people. And then we're planning to run a number of programs where we are visiting those markets virtually once every quarter. Numerous, many. So we'll be running mission after mission after mission, if you want to call them that, program after program into these markets where we work with a partner in the market. And also we're going to be hosting companies here because trade is a two-way thing. And so MAP is evolving quite rapidly. We had a conversation with the province the last couple of weeks. They're of course having to evolve their trade programming, and we're looking at our partnership on how we can do this together, some of this together. So I think that's you mentioned the way that the sort of organizations are working together. Well, we've always had a good relationship with the province and with the city and so on. But I think what this is doing is it's saying, let's figure out what each of us can contribute and what we're good at, and let's each do what we're good at and do it together. don't compete, and just get them trained, get them into market, educate them, help them, and the end result is, or the end goal is, how do I help your company get a contract? That's really what it comes down to. We're focused on getting contracts, not taking a trip or visiting a trade show, but how do we get you a contract? So that's what MAP is focused on.
Thank you for that. And I have a quick follow-up question. Is MAP free as well?
Interesting. No, not entirely. And I have to say, the free thing is a bit of a mixed blessing, because what we find running programs is we actually ran TAP free for quite a long time because we have good corporate support for it with RBC and Export Development Canada, BDC, and many others, UPS. And now we have Fed. The reason we have a relationship with FedDev that led us to do RAP is because they actually came to us after we had expanded nationally and said, we'd be interested in helping you expand, but into the smaller markets. So get into London, into Durham, into Kingston, whatever, those kinds of things, Thunder Bay. And so they've funded that. So it's created a great relationship. But I think we needed free this year. I really did. And it's a little bit like TAP at the beginning. We needed free to prove ourselves a little bit. I think we needed free this year because companies just, if you go to them and say, you're going to have to commit all this time, but we're going to make your company better, and give us $1,000 or something, it's really much harder on them. And so I think free is really, really important right now. I think in the long run, though, to be honest, I'd rather charge people a little bit, and the reason is because they have some skin in the game, and they tend to be more committed. They tend to see the value. Like I hate for anybody to think that Shop Here or RAP, Digital Main Street, are not valuable because they're free, and that's sometimes there's a mindset that says if I don't pay for it, it wasn't really valuable. So anyway, I think in the long run, also, I just don't think I don't want government, to be honest, to pay all of our bills forever, right? I don't think they can, and I think we'll be paying for it all our lives if that happens. So I think in the long run, it won't be. So take advantage of it this year, I guess, is my point on that.
Take advantage of it this year, for sure. So I'm just going to be a little bit mindful of time. I see that we've got some questions coming in from our viewers, and I want to make sure that we get to them. So the next question, I'm actually going to lob at Simon. So Simon, obviously under normal circumstances, a big part of your efforts at Invest Durham is trying to attract business into the region of Durham. How has that changed?
Yeah, well, it's a good question, and it has changed a lot, and certainly our focus has changed. But interestingly, what we found is that investment is not slowing down. Inbound investment is not slowing down, particularly into the region of Durham. Last week we had an announcement that a company that we had been at the region working to support for a couple of years now, to make the decision to make an investment in Durham, announced that they were coming, and Amazon is going to be building a 1 million square foot distribution center, hiring 1,000 people. Yeah, they're opening the doors of another distribution facility in Whitby, hundreds of new staff. So what we're seeing is that while we remain focused on our local businesses, there are still these opportunities to continue to support the businesses that we've been working with for a number of years to help them make the decision to invest. And also, another really interesting thing, not necessarily on the business investment side, but on the people side, we're seeing a huge influx right now of very talented, innovative and skilled people moving out of dense urban cores to Durham region, which has, a lot to offer on the quality of life side, very amazing, vibrant downtowns and, country charm and very affordable cost of living. So we are actually growing our workforce amid all of this, and we think that in itself is acting to attract investment and acting as a bit of a beacon for those companies that are looking for that innovative, talented workforce.
Absolutely. I think suburban living is all of a sudden becoming so much more attractive.
Yeah, or in my case, rural.
Rural, yes, absolutely. Living on a farm.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to start to wrap things up here. It's been a great conversation so far, but I'd like to close with this before we get to our questions from the viewers. What advice would each of you give to small business owners or operators who might be feeling a little bit overwhelmed? Running a business, in the best of times is challenging, but layer in the pandemic and it becomes pretty overwhelming. What would you say to them if they are looking to make that digital transformation? Where do they start? Simon, do you want to go first?
Sure. And I think that the one piece of advice that I would give small, medium-sized businesses, at least in Durham region, is, you're not alone, certainly, in feeling overwhelmed. There are, major things to overcome in the economy with the pandemic. And we're doing our best to centralize all of these resources and bring free programming in a way that will support directly at this time. And we've centralized it all through our portal at investdurham.ca. And, there's so much great information on there, including stuff from the province and the federal government, that if that in itself is overwhelming, we've got a 1-800 number and we can distill it right down to your specific needs. So, if you want to just cut right to the chase and find out, okay, what am I eligible for right now and what will have the best impact, we're there on the other end of the phone. We can help you through that. So that would be our single biggest piece of advice.
Absolutely. And I think that's fantastic that you and your team have managed to curate all this information so it's in one spot. So it makes it a lot easier for business owners, for sure. Same question for you, Leigh. What advice would you give?
Well, it would be go to investdurham.ca. Sounds pretty great. I want to check it out. But in all honesty, I just echo that sentiment. You're not alone. I think we're all overwhelmed in some way, like whatever it might be. I have 25 staff. I have to manage them somehow without getting to see them. It's hard, except on this flat screen, it's hard. So, but at the same time, you're also not alone in the sense that there are programs and organizations trying to help you. And so that in our case, this is, my one piece of advice is go to supportbusiness.bot.com/wrap. And BOT, of course, is Board of Trade. That's our website, bot.com. And take your DNA. Get your DNA taken because, again, no cost, maybe a half-hour commitment, and you're going to have an assessment of your business. And if you don't want to take any other programs, that's okay. Or maybe if Shop Here is the right thing, we'll help guide you to that. But at the very least, you've got this amazing professional assessment of your digital maturity. And I think that cannot help but help you. And so that would be my one place to start for us. Excellent.
Thank you for that. And I think I'm going to have to hustle up a little bit here to get to these questions. So we've got a couple of questions from Facebook. The first one is, what are some of the most common challenges you've heard from businesses local to your organizations? Simon, do you want to take a stab at that one?
Sure. I think, one of the ones we've heard throughout this is that the small businesses that have the highest level of impact on a revenue side are in the tourism industries or related to the tourism industries. And a lot of them are paying commercial rent. So we've heard that, across the board, there's been difficulties with getting rent relief, getting landlords to participate in rent relief programs and to, even prevent evictions as we get through this period of uncertainty. We've been providing advice to countless businesses that reach out to us for help on that. So that's a big one. But I don't know, Leigh, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, of course, we're hearing the same things, and I can look back to my efforts with the Work Track 2, which was about recovery by sector, by industry, and what we heard. One of the themes that came across all 11 of those sector tables, which even included post-secondary education, was one of the tables. I mean, literally across all of them, was that uncertainty is killing them. And that's really this is just my personal view, but government has sort of deferred to public health for making a lot of decisions, and understandably, but I think there has to be, and they're starting to move towards a more balanced approach, which says, yes, but there's economic, and not that they weren't trying to help with economic, but in terms of decision making. And so what we heard from a lot of companies, and including in the tourism industry, I can think of some organizations downtown that thrive on tourists coming in, specifically saying, we just don't know what we're allowed to do. What can we run? And if you creating a rule, kind of a high level rule that doesn't really address exactly our questions, is making it more uncertain and less helpful. And so I think that certainty is one of those things that's really made it very, very difficult. hopefully we're moving towards an improvement in that. And but my request ideally to government would be to be thinking about it in those terms, is we have to be much more specific and certain.
Absolutely.
Another thing too that just kind of popped in as you were talking, Leigh, is that one of the biggest things that our small businesses are dealing with that sell direct to customers is customer uncertainty, or consumer confidence in itself is posing a big concern to business, because as the rates of COVID kind of go like this, and we're on a bit of an uptick again, and we're ratcheting back on the social gatherings maximum, and what does that mean for business? Is there more impacts on business coming? That consumer confidence is a big issue. And going back to the topic of this discussion, I think the transition to digital is a critical piece, at least in the short term, for bridging that gap over the consumer confidence, the lack of consumer confidence that we have for in-person participation in the economy.
For sure. I think we've already broken a record for the longest episode so far. But I do have one more question from Facebook that I would love to get you to answer. So the question is, do you see your organizations continuing to lead the same amount of digital programs and support after COVID-19? And I know, Leigh, you've already kind of touched on this a little bit. So maybe in a few seconds, if we can get another response from you.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely. There's no question. I mean, to be honest, in our scale up planning for our growth development program, we had a pillar that was about process and intellectual property, and it really dealt with that sort of digital aspect of running a business and how that is critical to success. In particular, if you want to scale your business, that was the case. But now it's if you want your business to survive. Right. And so, yeah, my view is we will continue to. Deep in my heart, I hope we get to go back into markets. I hope we get to meet in rooms together. I hope we have our staff in, even if we've changed our perspective on whether whether staff can be productive remotely, which in my view has changed a great deal. I totally think we can. So I think we might change how much we have to have staff, and it might not be 5 days a week every week of the year that they have to be in the space. But I really dearly hope we get that all back together. But the reality is, everything you do right now to figure out how to manage your business digitally better is going to help you, but that'll always be the case. It's not going to end because we have a vaccine. You're always going to want we're moving towards a digital world. Please become increase your digital IQ, become digitally mature, however you want to put it. This is an important thing to do, and now is the time to get it started. Absolutely.
And Simon, what about you?
Yeah, no, I would say now is absolutely the time. If you had been considering going digital in the past, or if you are digital and you're considering, putting some more tools on the tool belt, now is definitely the time to take advantage of some of the great programming. We will certainly continue to offer programming to our local businesses. That will not change. The level of free services may change going forward, but we will certainly be there for our economy going forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah, get them now.
Yeah.
Well, listen, thank you both so much, Simon and Leigh. I know I've learned a lot, and I'm confident that we've provided a lot of useful information to our viewers today. Simon, if folks want to get in touch with you at Invest Durham, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, we have a contact form on Invest Durham. Also, feel free to add me on LinkedIn. It's just LinkedIn/Simon Gill, and be happy to.
There we go.
There we go. Right, perfect. I'll be happy to connect with you.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here with us, Simon. And Leigh, how can folks reach out to you?
Likewise, through the website I suggested, or which is there on the screen, or lsmout@bot.com, or again on LinkedIn. Also, I'm easy to find, Leigh_Smout, and on Twitter. And I'm really happy to help companies, guide them into whatever program we can help them with.
Absolutely. Once again, thank you so much. Thank you to our viewers for joining us and for participating with your questions. They were fantastic. For our next episodes, please keep an eye out for our promos as we run them. If you're looking for past recordings, you can check it out on our blog page on geekspeakcommerce.com. This conversation has been fantastic. Thank you all so much for your time. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, Tricia, and
Take
Geek
care.
Speak. Bye-bye.
Bye.